Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Princess Ken Ochoma. In the headlines, Nigerian women reflect on 30 years of progress since Beijing conference. PDP zones 2027 presidential slot to South. North retains party chairmanship. Hezbollah rejects disarmament, demands Israel comply with ceasefire first. And dust storm around Arizona airport forces grounding of flights. Details in a moment.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Women worldwide, including in Nigeria, have played a vital role in amplifying women's voices, pushing boundaries for equality, and challenging systemic boundaries in education, politics, economics, and beyond. 3 decades since the pivotal Beijing World Conference on Women, feminist advocacy have contributed to shifts on how women's rights are perceived and addressed in Nigeria and globally. In commemoration of the 30th anniversary of the Beijing World Conference on Women, an event was put together to reflect on the progress and persistent challenges faced by women at the ongoing NBA conference in Enugu. Correspondent Ugone Uwali was there.
So we get away with it.
In 1995, the world pledged to advance gender equality at the Beijing Conference on Women. 3 decades later, we turn to Nigeria, a country of vibrant cultures and growing potential. How have women in Nigeria fared since Beijing? To answer this question, people from across Nigeria gathered in Enugu on the sideline of the Nigeria Bar Association 2025 Annual General Conference. The 6-member panel, headed by Professor Joy Ezilo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, advised stakeholders to foster collaboration to improve the status of women in the society.
All we are saying is that there should be synergy, that the government should also support that effort, and that we should work together as government, as non-governmental, as private sector, in order to achieve, in fact, the state responsibility is actually on the government. The government of each country is supposed to implement the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action. Exactly today was the date the Beijing conference started, and they had 12 critical areas that we identified. And 30 years down the line, we are still battling those 12 critical areas. We are still battling poverty. Women are still battling violence against women. Women are still battling the girl-child issue. They are still affected by conflict around the world. They are still not on the peace table. Their human rights are not respected. And all we are saying is that human rights are women's rights.
The Deputy British High Commissioner in Abuja, Oliver Obe, advised the Nigerian government to advance women's rights and empowerment.
I think the one big thing that Nigeria could do to increase gender equality and equity is to pass a special seats bill, which is a bill that will bring additional seats into Nigeria's National Assembly and also to state assemblies that give women more say in the political life of their country. So women are 50% of the population, but represent less than 5% of the people who are elected to the National Assembly. And there's very strong evidence that bringing women into political and into public life means better policies for women and for youth, for society generally, less conflict, better peace, an increase in those domestic products, more economic success, and generally having women in political life is better for a successful and progressive democracy.
A human rights activist, Aisha Yusufu, encouraged women to always speak up and urge them to support one another.
But the judiciary in Nigeria, I mean, it's long gone. It's the plaything of corrupt politicians. So it's a plaything of people who have money. It hasn't been fair basically on anyone, and most especially when it comes to women. We must find a way into getting into politics. We must be at the places where decisions are being made. Enough of us standing by the side, enough of us being, led by tradition, some use religion against us. All those little voices that were planted into our heads that said that as women we can't be leaders, we should throw them away and just shatter every glass ceiling that is out there.
Other panelists took turn in condemning the marginalization of women in the society.
For the position of local government chair is often referred to as chairman. What it means is that it is already restrictive of having a woman chair a local government, a local government area.
The audience also condemned the killing of activists and men who belittle women aspiring to greater heights in life.
Killing of people that are advocating for right things to be done is so worrisome. And so many that have been killed, nothing has happened. So it's discouraging for people who still want to speak up.
And I really don't know why you want to shame a woman for being single, you want to shame a woman for pursuing her dreams, you want to shame a woman for being broken, or you talk too much, sit down, you shouldn't be heard, I must be heard because I am a woman.
Highlight of the event was the presentation of awards to panelists. The voices of women, amplified by the feminist movement and commitment to equality, continue to shape Nigeria's path forward.
From International Conference Center, Enugu State, Nigeria, Ugonna Owalo reporting for Signature TV.
Eon Otu, the wife of the Cross River State Governor, has cleared 11 months of unpaid stipends owed to 1,234 women sweepers of the Urban Development Authority across the Central and Northern Senatorial districts. The initiative, which was a demonstration of a show of support and recognition for their dedication to keeping the streets of Cross River State clean and green, also included the distribution of 170 point of sales machines, empowering the women further in their livelihoods. In her address during the event held in Ugep, Ekom, Ogoja, and Obudu, Otu remarked the women labored for 11 months without any reward. In their remarks, the council chairman expressed gratitude to the governor's wife for her commitment to the welfare of women, calling her actions a beacon of hope and humanity. The Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare has submitted a memo for the extension of retirement age for medical and dental consultants in the country from 60 years to 70 years to the Office of the Head of Service. President Bola Tinubu had in February approved an upward review of the retirement age for doctors and other healthcare workers from 60 to 65 years. The Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria has continued to advocate 70 years for consultants, citing the rising immigration of skilled health professionals and the shortage of trainers at both undergraduate and postgraduate levels of medical education. The association noted that about 1,594 consultants aged 55 and above are expected to retire by 2029, while data show that 1,056 consultants left Nigeria between 2019 and 2023 in search of better opportunities abroad. According to stakeholders, the proposed extension would address the nation's healthcare workforce shortage. The president of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, Professor Mohammed, said the association remained optimistic that the retirement age extension will be approved by the government. The National Association of Nigerian Students has threatened to shut down critical infrastructure nationwide if the federal government fails to meet the demands of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, which has again warned of a possible nationwide strike. NAN's Assistant General Secretary, Emmanuel Adejuwo, who spoke to newsmen in Abuja, expressed deep concern over ASU's latest threat, vowing that the union would mobilize Nigerian students for massive nationwide protests that will shut down roads, airports, government offices, and critical infrastructure. He accused the federal government of endless promises and insincerity, saying students had grown weary of being victims of leadership irresponsibility. While demanding government action, Adejuwo also called on ASU to rethink its tactics, weaponizing strike as the only tool of engagement, which he said destroys the academic calendar, elongates the years in school, and diminishes the quality of education. The People's Democratic Party has zoned the party's presidential slot to the southern part of the country ahead of the 2027 polls. The party also decided that the chairmanship position of the party would remain in the north. The decisions were reached at the National Executive Council meeting held in Abuja. The NEC also affirmed Umar Damagum as its national chairman. Damagum emerged as acting national chairman in March 2023 after the suspension of a former national chairman, Iyoshai Awu, a decision later upheld by a court. The issue of zoning of the presidential ticket of the party has been a contentious issue in the nation's political landscape. Currently, the presidency is occupied by a southerner and former Lagos State governor. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Mustafa Musa, has urged African militaries to develop joint cyber defense, counter-terrorism, and intelligence sharing capabilities to confront the continent's evolving security threats. Musa, who made the call at the opening of the inaugural African Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit in Abuja, warned that terrorism, transnational organized crime, piracy, and climate-related conflicts are becoming increasingly sophisticated, while cyber warfare and artificial intelligence are reshaping the battlefield. He stressed that no country should face the challenges alone and called for defense collaboration to move beyond dialogue to concrete operational frameworks, including the development of an indigenous African defense industrial base. Musa noted the country's ongoing role in peacekeeping, counter-terrorism, and humanitarian missions, and reaffirmed readiness to collaborate with partners across the country to strengthen interoperability and resilience. The 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, has frowned at the rising spate of killings and abductions across Nigeria, saying insecurity has worsened under the current administration. The former Anambra State governor, in a statement, cited the recent attack in Okigwe, Imo State, where many residents were killed and several others declared missing, as further proof of the worsening security crisis. He also referenced a recent report by Amnesty International, which he said had warned that the Nigerian government was emboldening bandits through its stunning failure to protect citizens. Obi decried that in just 2 years of the present administration, over 10,000 Nigerians have been killed by armed groups across various states. The situation, he said, demands immediate action, stressing that the primary duty of any government is the protection of lives and property. The Ulana Forum in Nigeria has condemned the reported Memorandum of Understanding between the federal government and Israel on security cooperation, describing it as dangerous, undemocratic, and insensitive. In a statement signed by its convener, Aminu Inua Mohammed, the Secretary Bashir Adamu Aliyu, the forum faulted the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Bianco Ojukwu, for what it called a diplomatic romance with Israel. The forum argued that at a time when many countries are criticizing Israel over alleged genocide against Palestinians, Nigeria should not be seeking help from the Jewish state. The group said Nigeria ought to have supported South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, ICJ. The clerics stressed that Nigeria's security challenges require local solutions rooted in community engagement, social cohesion, and inclusive governance, and warned bringing in foreign powers like Israel could erode Nigeria's sovereignty, reduce accountability, worsen insecurity. The Arewa Conservative Forum, ACF, has raised the alarm that northern Nigeria is being pushed to the wall by worsening insecurity, poverty, and environmental challenges. The warning came after the group's 78th National Executive Committee meeting in Kaduna. ACF Chairman Maman Asuman said the North could no longer remain quiet while lives and resources were being lost. Asuman lamented the daily killings across the region, noting that children, women, and men and the elderly had fallen victim to floods, banditry, terrorism, and other disasters. He urged northern leaders and citizens to reflect, unite, and pray for peace. Up ahead, Anambra Police Command begins investigation into assault on young man by father. Nigeria signs direct flight and other agreements with Brazil. Stay with us.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
The Anambra State Police Command has launched an investigation into the alleged abuse of a young man identified as Chobo, popularly known as Agudo, from Ibuku, who was reportedly kept in chains by his father for 5 years. The father had claimed that his son had traveled abroad, while in reality he was being held captive. Police spokesperson Tochukwu Ikenga, who said the police was alerted about the situation, disclosed that the victim had since been rescued and receiving necessary care. Ikenga said the Commissioner of Police, Ikeoye Urutugu, has directed some operatives to thoroughly investigate the matter and ensure that those responsible are held accountable if found guilty. The Commissioner commended the youths of the community for their proactive role in uncovering the incident, describing their action as a clear example of community partnership in policing. Ikenga stated that preliminary inquiries are ongoing to establish the facts and safeguard the victim's well-being, assuring that justice will be served and those found culpable made to face the law. The candidate of the Young Progressive Party, YPP, in the November governorship election in Anambra State, Paul Chukwuma, joined a peaceful march against the alleged intimidation and abuse meted out to Anambra by operatives of Udogachi and Sasa. Udogachi, a security outfit created by the Soludo-led government, and the Sasa, an anti-touting agency, otherwise known as Ndikoboko, has been notorious for allegedly using pesos on citizens and came under intense scrutiny in the last few days following the reported manhandling of a female youth corps member serving in Oba, Idemili South local government area of the state. The peaceful march, which commenced from Aroma Junction in Oka, terminated at the Anambra State Police Headquarters in Amobia, where the group was received by Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations, Ibrahim Ezekiel. The YPP governorship candidate who joined the protest regretted that the governor of Anambra State, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, would allow agencies of the state established to serve the people to become instruments of oppression against these same people. Chukwuma, who briefed the command on the reasons for the peaceful march, lamented what he said was the abuse meted out to innocent citizens by Udogachi and Sasa, and called on the police to rise up to their responsibilities while assuring them of the support of Anambra people.
It is to address this singular issue. We are all having sleepless nights, and we can't continue to keep quiet. Anambra is under siege, and this siege is having the stamp of the state government, and we are concerned about it. We thank you. Your response is quite reassuring, and we look forward to the police doing the needful and ensuring that we retrieve back our state, and we need to have the police do their jobs.
The coordinator of the group, Nkem Bono, called for investigation into cases of missing persons, existence of secret cells of Udogachi in Oka and Onitsha, and the disbandment of the outfits. Responding, the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Ibrahim Ezekiel, who stood in for the Commissioner of Police, assured the group that the issues raised would be addressed.
We're not aware of it because if they're bearing firearms, there is a prohibited firearms arrest. When if we see, we will seize and we will arrest whoever is holding it unlawfully. Thank you. We're not aware of it because if they're bearing firearms, there is a prohibited firearms arrest. When if we see, we will seize and we will arrest whoever is holding it unlawfully. Thank you. We're not aware of it because if they're bearing firearms, is a prohibited firearms arrest. When we will see, we will seize and will arrest whoever is holding it unlawfully. Thank you. We're not aware of it because.
Meanwhile, some group have staged a peaceful march in Oka, capital city, to show their solidarity and support to the Chukwuma Soludo-led government in the state and counter the calls for the disbandment of Udogachi's security outfit in the state. During their separate peaceful rallies, the youth wing of the Anambra State Association of Soludo-leds and the National Association of Nigerian Students, Anambra State Chapter, wielding placards of different inscriptions, marched from Aroma Junction to the Government House, Oka. President General of Asatu Youths, Ken Okoli, who spoke at Aroma, condemned the recent humiliation of a serving female youth corps member by the Udogachi security outfit, but commended the government for giving instant justice and improving the security architecture of the state.
And also to express ourselves as concerned citizens of Nigeria and the citizens of Anambra State. Combination of security agencies in Anambra State, of each one of the key components of it, is Abdul Temba. Abdul Temba transformed the security architecture of our state in the sense that the community security is no longer what we used to have before. And also to express ourselves as concerned citizens of Nigeria.
Education students during their separate march, Ifeanyi Chukwuemeka, who is the Joint Campus Council chairman, commended the governor of taking security as project priority in the states.
Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo for making out a priority that our security must be guaranteed in Anambra, and to also to say thank you to the heads of these security personnel and parastatals that have worked tirelessly to ensure that we are safe in this country.
Chief of Staff to the state governor, Ernest Ezadri, who addressed the protesters, frowned at the way some politicians in the state call for disbandment of a security outfit, which he claimed had brought succor to the people.
Based on your banner. And what he said. That the security has improved tremendously. The security has improved in your campuses. Yes. Security has improved on the roads. Yes. So, executive, we are working very hard. We are working day and night to make the state better.
Nigeria appears to stand at the brink of one of its most comprehensive leadership reforms in decades, thanks to the Nigerian Bar Association, which used the occasion of its 2025 Annual General Conference to create a platform to develop bold, visionary leaders ready to build a prosperous nation. Correspondent Christopher Lely, who has been covering the conference at the International Conference Center, Enugu, reports.
It was a breakout session and panel discussion at the ongoing annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, with the theme Leadership for Transformation. It brought together distinguished experts and legal luminaries, including the Governor of Enugu State, Dr. Peter Mba, and other practitioners who unpacked practical strategies to overcome barriers. The panelists also examined how to unlock opportunities and harness mentorship and education as catalysts for growth, using entrepreneurship and innovation as tools for change. One of the discussants and Enugu State Governor, Dr. Peter Mba, said governance is about channeling transformational leadership, which he said is deeper than what the world can see when the landscape changes. Governor Mba shared his experiences and strategies for transforming Enugu State, including committing 33% of the state's budget to education and launching farm estates with over 2,000 projects.
Transformation is something deeper. It is not management. It is not tinkering at the edges of what already exists. Transformation is when the landscape itself changes so completely that the world you see after is unrecognizable from what came before. Education is our next frontier. We committed over 33% of our budget to education.
During the discussion moderated by Linus Okorie, Governor Peter Mba and other experts shared insights on overcoming challenges and driving change.
We understand the place of sustainability in our administration. So not only are we doing brick and mortar, we also set a legal framework for whatever we do so that it would outlive not just our administration but our generation.
Today's world, education has shifted from content memorization to creativity, critical thinking and problem-solving approach, and it became very imperative that we must follow the trend, the technological trend, looking at what is happening in the world.
It's important to note that every single thing we see today, and many more you are yet to see, were carefully planned out. And if you go back and look at the manifesto, you'll see that all of those things were foreseen and planned ab initio.
When asked about his stand on sit at home and the continuous detention of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, Governor Mba maintained that Enugu State is free from sit at home and expressed his efforts towards the release of Nnamdi Kanu.
The situation we met on ground is one where everybody, whether you wanted or not, you were compelled to sit at home. And if you did not, it means that you're going to have a violent attack either on your property or yourself. So that was the situation we met on ground. But I can tell you today, even in the Ogbete, we just made reference to, those who want to come to work, who want to trade on Monday, trade there in peace and in safety. My first visit to the president was the discussion on Nnamdi Kanu And I came out and granted an interview about what I had just discussed with the president. So I still believe that the right thing to do is to release Nnamdi Kanu, and hopefully that will happen soon.
Former member of the National Assembly, Senator Dino Melaye, praised Governor Mba for his style of appointment and recruitment process, urging him to share his success strategies with other governors to tackle corruption and revenue leakages.
Why I am particularly impressed this afternoon is Your Excellency's recruitment process in appointing your political appointees. Your Excellency, maybe you tell your colleagues in the Nigerian Governors Forum, organize a retreat and teach them how to recruit how to recruit appointees. Square pegs in square holes, because that is one of our fundamental problems in our state and in the national level.
Highlights of the panel discussion included the presentation of awards to the panelists. The Nigerian Bar Association, Africa's largest professional body of lawyers with over 120,000 members in Nigeria and abroad, is a flagship gathering of legal practitioners, policymakers, judges, academics, and international guests. The conference serves as a platform to reflect on law, democracy, governance, and justice in Africa and across the globe. Christopher Lele, reporting for Signature TV.
Still to come. Law professor says data matters as Elon Musk's XAI sues Apple and OpenAI. Venezuela to deploy 15,000 soldiers to the Colombia border to bolster security. These and more after the break.
We are local.
The international community is observing
Just finished the
When the meat market is in chaos, people are...
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye.
We have taken it to by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Hezbollah leader named Kazem said on Monday that the Lebanese government will first ensure Israel complies with a November 27 ceasefire agreement before talks on a national defense strategy can take place, reaffirming the Iran-backed group's refusal to disarm. Israel on Monday signaled it would scale back its military presence in southern Lebanon if the Lebanese armed forces took action to disarm Iran-backed Shiite militant group Hezbollah. This month, Lebanon's cabinet tasked the army with drawing up a plan to establish state control over arms by December, a challenge to Hezbollah, which has rejected calls to disarm. But the group has resisted the pressure, refusing to discuss its arsenal until Israel ends its strikes and withdraws troops from southern Lebanon. The Israeli military continues to carry out periodic airstrikes in Lebanon that it said targeted Hezbollah militants and facilities used by the group to store weapons.
This government's decision, referring to the cabinet's approval of the objectives of a U.S. plan to disarm Hezbollah, was taken under American and Israeli dictates. If this government continues in its current form, it cannot be trusted to safeguard Lebanon's sovereignty unless it retracts its decision, for retraction is a virtue. We will not give up on the weapon that honored us, and we will not give up on the weapon that protects us from our enemy. We will not let Israel roam and act freely in our country, killing resistance fighters and confiscating the South. Expel the enemy from our land, stop the aggression, release the prisoners, and begin reconstruction. This is the roadmap. Then, after that, come to discuss the defense strategy. Let them implement the ceasefire agreement and do what they have to do, and then we will discuss the defense strategy. This government's decision.
Australia said on Tuesday it would expel Israel's ambassador to Canberra as Prime Minister Anthony Albanese accused Tehran of executing two anti-Semitic attacks in the key cities of Sydney and Melbourne. Australia's security agency had gathered credible intelligence that the Iranian government had directed at least 2 attacks, Albanese told a news conference. The Australian Security Intelligence Organization said it was likely that Iran had directed further attacks, he added. Australia has suspended operations at its embassy in Tehran, and all its diplomats were safe in a third country, Albanese said, adding that his government will designate Tehran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. Since the Israel-Gaza war began in October 2023, Australian homes, schools, synagogues, and vehicles have been targeted in anti-Semitic vandalization and arson.
ASIO has now gathered enough credible intelligence to reach a deeply disturbing conclusion that the Iranian government directed at least 2 of these attacks. Iran has sought to disguise its involvement, but ASIO assesses it was behind the attacks on the Lewis Continental Kitchen in Sydney on October 20 last year, and the Adass Israel Synagogue in Melbourne on December 6 last year. ASIO assesses it is likely Iran directed further attacks as well. These were extraordinary and dangerous acts of aggression orchestrated by a foreign nation on Australian soil. They were attempts to undermine social cohesion and sow discord in our community. A short time ago, we informed the Iranian ambassador to Australia that he would be expelled. We have suspended operations at our embassy in Tehran, and all our diplomats are now safe in a third country.
ASIO now assesses the Iranian government directed at least 2 and likely more attacks on US interests in Australia. Our painstaking investigation uncovered and unpicked the links between the alleged crimes and the commanders in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. The IRGC used a complex web of proxies to hide its involvement. This is the sort of obfuscation and boundary blurring I warned about earlier this year.
Former Mexican drug kingpin Ismael El Mayo Zambada admitted in a U.S. courtroom on Monday to ordering murders and shipping millions of kilograms of cocaine during his decades-long leadership of the violent Sinaloa cartel. Zambada, 75, faces a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment after pleading guilty in federal court in Brooklyn to charges that he engaged in a racketeering conspiracy and ran a continuing criminal enterprise that prosecutors said was responsible for flooding the U.S. with cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl. These charges stem from his decades-long role leading the Sinaloa cartel alongside imprisoned drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, who is serving a life sentence in a maximum security prison in Colorado. Zambada agreed to plead guilty after the Justice Department this month said it would not seek the death penalty for Zambada or Rafael Caro Quintero, another supergenarian alleged Mexican drug lord facing U.S. charges.
Drug kingpin Ishmael Zambada Garcia, also known as El Mayo, has confessed to a lifetime of crime in service to the Sinaloa cartel, a foreign terrorist organization. Thanks to the relentless work of our prosecutors and our federal agents, El Mayo will spend the rest of his life behind bars. He will die in a U.S. federal prison where he belongs. His guilty plea brings us one step closer to achieving our goal of elimination of the drug cartels and the transnational criminal organizations throughout this world that are flooding our country with drugs, human traffickers, and homicides. Under President Trump's leadership, the Department of Justice is on the front lines of this fight. We're standing shoulder to shoulder with all of our law enforcement partners to dismantle these narco-terrorists. And that's exactly what they are. They are narco-terrorists.
Zambada was arrested in July 2024 alongside Joaquin Guzman Lopez, one of Guzman Lopez's sons, after the plane in which they were traveling landed at a small airstrip in New Mexico. Zambada's lawyer has said Guzman Lopez kidnapped Zambada, which the Guzman family lawyer had denied. Guzman Lopez has pleaded not guilty to U.S. drug trafficking charges. U.S. prosecutors have said they would not seek the death penalty for him if convicted. Kogan set Zambada's sentencing for January 13, 2026. Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk's artificial intelligence startup xAI sued Apple and ChatGPT maker OpenAI in U.S. federal court in Texas on Monday, accusing them of illegally conspiring to thwart competition for artificial intelligence. Apple and OpenAI have locked up markets to maintain their monopolies and prevent innovators like X and xAI from competing, the lawsuit said. Apple, in partnership with OpenAI, has integrated ChatGPT into its operating systems for iPhones, iPads, and Macs. University of Ohio law professor Amit Schmitz said in the game of artificial intelligence, Musk and his platform, an AI tool, are competing for data. In the lawsuit, xAI said it is seeking billions of dollars in alleged damages.
When it comes to monopolies and when you're looking at anti-competitive behavior, you have to be able to define what is that market that we're talking about and who are the players and what sort of competition actually does exist, right? So although Musk may argue that perhaps they're somehow harmed by the fact that Apple is now working with ChatGPT and includes it within their iOS, the fact remains that Grok is in the App Store and it has ranked highly in some months. In fact, one report I looked at had it ranked at, I think, #1 on the App Store in February of 2025, which shows that there is competition, right? And I was thinking also about Android, for example. Android's Gemini is the favored AI tool within Androids for the most part, from what I've seen, and I have an Android, and of course it has Gemini. So then you wonder, well, that kind of makes sense, right? Now, is that anti-competitive behavior? We see a lot of these sorts of arrangements happen in all different industries, right, in different partnerships.
OpenAI's ChatGPT became the fast-growing consumer application in history in the months following its launch in late 2022. Musk's xAI acquired X in March for $33 million to enhance its chatbot training capabilities. Musk has also integrated the Grok chatbot into vehicles made by his electronic automobile company, Tesla. xAI was launched less than 2 years ago and competes with Microsoft-backed OpenAI as well as with Chinese startup DeepSeek. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Monday that the U.S. military might deploy to Chicago and is ready to go anywhere on short notice to crack down on crime. Citing a purported wave of lawlessness, Trump seized control this month of the police force in Washington, D.C., and is allowing National Guard troops to carry weapons while on patrol in the city. He has threatened to expand the U.S. military presence to Democrat-controlled cities like Baltimore and Chicago. Illinois Governor J.P. Brixke said his state had made no request for federal intervention, and the Illinois Attorney General said legal action would be taken to prevent a federal deployment in Chicago.
Over the weekend, we learned from the media that Donald Trump has been planning for quite a while now to deploy armed military personnel to the streets of Chicago. This is exactly the type of overreach that our country's founders warned against. And it's the reason that they established a federal system with a separation of powers built on checks and balances. What President Trump is doing is unprecedented and unwarranted. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It is un-American. No one from the White House or the executive branch has reached out to me or to the mayor. No one has reached out to our staffs No effort has been made to coordinate or to ask for our assistance in identifying any actions that might be helpful to us. Local law enforcement has not been contacted. We have made no requests for federal intervention. None.
And that's the news this hour. I am Princess Ken Ochoma. Thank you for watching.